in at number 10, we have SCP-1591. So SCP-1591 is a big, beautiful, levitating glass star sculpture. It seems that at the core of the sculpture, there is glass in the shape of a star weighing around 12 kilos. This in turn is surrounded by further coloured glass panels weighing 12 kilos each. It's a heavy enough star. Here's a picture for those of you struggling to visualise, and really a picture is all you want here because you actually couldn't look at this SCP directly. It seems that SCP-1591 is kept in a room with 30 high-intensity spotlights pointed right at it. These spotlights need to be replaced monthly. Why? Well, SCP-151 produces a light of its own, which increases in brightness and intensity over time, especially in dark environments. When its light shines on a solid object, it at first becomes transparent and then slowly fades away, hence why the spotlight needs replacing as they slowly break down and stop working. Now, if a person is directly exposed to the light, they will lose the ability to speak and will try and run away. Unfortunately though, the light will destroy them, eventually making them disappear. It seems that SCP-1591's power was increased when the site was bombed in the World War. It seems that as time goes on, the brightness of the lights used to quell 1591 needs to increase. For example, if a 40-watt bulb contained it a week ago, by now it will need a 60-watt, so on and so forth. Each month when the spotlights are replaced, they have to get brighter. Now this SCP can only be stopped by bright lights, but eventually we'll run out of lights bright enough. When we do, it will start evaporating things on Earth, everything around it. I guess our only option is to take it to the sun. Okay, I'm a drama girl, so I will absolutely bite. I love the concept behind SCP-701, but it's deadly. Information coming here at number 9. SCP-701 is a 5-act play named The Hanged King's Tragedy. There are multiple copies of the play on lockdown in an anonymous storage site in the SCP Foundation. The observed behaviour surrounding SCP-701 is as follows. A group of people decide to do a play, The Hanged King's Tragedy, and as they start rehearsing it, they notice that the content changes every time they meet up, but they don't really realise it, just something weird's going on. As the play begins for its opening night, it's a sellout, a mysterious figure, SCP-701-1, appears on the stage at the end of Act 1. Now the figure is a tall humanoid dressed in black with a hood over its head. The audience noticed, but the cast do not. The audience obviously think it's part of the play, and they're enjoying it. He then continues to appear at intervals before officially coming on stage as the Hanged King during Act 5. Under his gaze, the cast then begin to kill themselves on stage until they're all dead. This is when the audience realise that actually this is no play. Riots break out in the audience, and if any audience member manages to leave, they do so in a daze, committing random acts of violence until they're killed or intercepted by members of the SCP Foundation. If audience members survive and are treated, they're often psychotic for the rest of their life. Some may have no memory of the incident. The reason this SCP could end the world lays in the fact that a VHS and DVD of the performance exists. Anyone who watches it would be prone to hateful and violent outbursts. One play that I don't think I'd enjoy. Coming into number 8, we have SCP-173. The sculpture. This SCP is all of your weeping angel nightmares come true, although we all do have to enjoy the rhyme of saying SCP-173. Absolutely none of us wants to be around this super creep though, I'm telling you. SCP-173 is on lockdown in a sealed container in Unit 19 of the SCP Foundation. The SCP itself has been known as the art piece, as it looks like some kind of ghoulish contemporary art sculpture from hell. Before we talk about the main concern with the SCP, I'd just like to highlight that it seems to seep feces and blood, which is pretty damn unsanitary. Aside from that though, like with the weeping angels in Doctor Who, you basically never ever want to close your eyes around it. Why? Because if you do, it will come closer and closer to you, and when it does finally get to you, it will snap your neck at the base of your skull. It's a killer, so no blinking. The SCP-173 will not stop until everyone who has ever blinked in its presence is dead. So next up, we kind of basically have the exact opposite of SCP-173 at number 7. We have SCP-096. So, I'm not going to show you a picture of SCP-096. Instead, you can look at me. You'll find out why. Often referred to as the Shy Guy, SCP-096 will get you. I guess they all get you in the end, don't they? SCP-096 is kept in a locked steel cube and is checked checked up weekly for cracks and holes. There can be absolutely no CCTV or video surveillance of any kind when it comes to SCP-096. Any images of this SCP must be destroyed. You can't even draw it. Why? SCP-096 is a humanoid-looking creature with long limbs. It has blank, pale eyes, and its jaw can open 4 times wider than that of a normal human. Unlike with SCP-173, you can't look at it, ever. If you do look at it, it will freak out and kill you. Exactly how it kills you is classified. SCP-096 is noted for freaking out, crying, screaming, and becoming crazed when people look at it. Similarly, if a picture or a recording is taken, it will go crazy and kill. It seems that even looking at a photo or video of this SCP can kill you too. Exactly how? Once again, I don't know. How could it destroy the world? Well, if enough people saw it, hello, dead. Coming into number 6, we have SCP-1048. Okay, but like an SCP that looks like a teddy bear. I mean, that absolutely can't be good news, can it? And no, it isn't. SCP-1048 at first seems like a lovable teddy. Cute. It can move of its own accord, communicate through cutesy gestures, and loves hugs. Or so it seems. But it is all a ruse. SCP-1048 will often hug people's legs and draw childlike pictures and give them as gifts. It will even dance and jump, anything to make someone like it. But make no mistake, a lot like people who try hard in life, SCP-1048 is pure evil, something the SCP Foundation discovered the hard way. On one occasion, the SCP was observed having entirely replicated itself out of metal scraps. It seems that SCP-1048 has the ability to replicate using any given material, and for this reason, no teddy bears are allowed in the SCP Foundation whatsoever. Prior to the ear incident, this SCP was free to roam its holding site, but following the nightmare, the Foundation realized its true intentions. Oh, what was the ear incident? Let me tell you. It seems that SCP-1048 replicated itself out of human ears, removing the ears of all of the people around it within a 10-meter radius. A teddy bear made of ears. On one occasion, it appears that the SCP was able to abort a pregnant staff member's baby as it began replicating itself with baby parts. Honestly, a world filled with SCP teddy bears that pretend to be cuddly but then use deception and murder in order to replicate, honestly, it sounds like a dangerous world to me. Coming into number 5, we have SCP-1471. SCP-1471 will wreak havoc with your mobile devices. It's a free app usually named Mallow or version 1.00 in app stores. Now there's no listed developer, and somehow it's able to bypass approval. Once the app has been downloaded, users won't see any icon or shortcut and they will not be able to delete it. They're doomed. The SCP will then begin sending images to the phone every 3 to 6 hours. The image will contain SCP-1471-A, a humanoid with a goat-like skull with black hair. In the first 24 hours, the images will show the figure at locations frequented by the individual who downloaded the app. In the following 24 hours, the SCP will show up at places recently visited by the individual. After 72 hours, the individual will receive real-time images of SCP-1471-A within close proximity to them. Those who have had the app for 90 hours or more will begin to visualize SCP-1471-A within their peripheral vision, or even their reflections, or both. From then on in, it's a downward spiral. Individuals will actually see the SCP, who will try and communicate with them in a language that they don't understand. So, how could this end the world? Well, almost everyone has a phone, and this SCP will send people mad thinking they're seeing a skull with hair and crazy eyes. While this SCP has never been reported to have killed anyone, with people losing their minds around it, it would be hazardous to mental health and productivity. People wouldn't get any work done in a best case scenario. In a worst case, they would cause accidents or perhaps even try and gouge out their own eyes, which, again, infections. Nightmare. Puss. This SCP will send you insane at number 4. We have SCP-055. This SCP is literally unknowable. It's unknowable by definition. Whatever it is, it makes humans forget about it. Information about it just leaks out of humans' brains. It's a self-keeping secret. It is placed at Site 19, although how the facility was built, we don't actually know. All we know is that Site 19 is 5 by 5.2.5 in meters. What am I going to do with this information? Like, nothing. We don't know what's in this space, and those who go on to investigate it forget. Research has been conducted on those who have been exposed to the SCP, and it seems that the only way of knowing it is by a series of yes-no answers. Now the loophole here is that while you can't know what it is or say what it is, you can know what it isn't. It seems one person question was asked if it was a sphere, to which they said no, but afterwards they didn't know what they were being asked, so not a sphere. Good. Great. What is it? Well, we don't know. To me, this makes me worried because it means we have no idea what it's up to. It could absolutely be plotting to end the world, and knowing the SCP Foundation, it probably is. Shall we start with a picture at number 3 to get the ball rolling? Sure, here it is. This is SCP-610, and it's an infection that causes serious and grotesque mutation. Hip hip hurrah, and we're back to pus again. Exposure to SCP-610 at first leads individuals to develop an itchy rash along with skin sensitivity. The rash will turn into heavy lesions and areas of what look like fresh scar tissue. These scar tissue wounds will then consume the whole body, and the process gets even quicker in warm conditions. It can take anywhere from 5 minutes in hot conditions to 5 hours in cold conditions, and it can absolutely destroy a person. The infected then no longer resembles a person and starts functioning at very high speed. The infected skin will start to grow rapidly and move of its own accord, with limbs becoming long and then branching out like roots, forming other fleshy limbs. Look! Without containment, they will continue to grow, and any living organism who touches it will become infected too. Infection is spread by touch and sometimes even spores in the air. The infection was first noted in Siberia, and while it has been contained, it hasn't been destroyed. The areas infected continue to be so, and they are protected by SCP under the guise of military operations. If the containment was breached, then this infection could absolutely destroy the world. Coming into number 2, we have SCP-1548. Well, to me, this really is the baddie to end all baddies, except our number 1, of course. SCP-1548 is cosmic, and it wants us dead. SCP-1548 is a living star, an evil solar system moving towards us at breakneck speed. It seems this SCP was first discovered in the 1970s, with astronomers thinking it was simply another star, until it started moving towards us at increasing speed. Oh, and it's speaking to us via radio signals. It's a sentient star. Hurrah! So, what's it saying? That it wants to destroy all life in its path and it finds us pathetic. Good! Oh, and it also knows we're watching it too. How will it destroy us? Well, it seems it will steal us from our sun's orbit and then gobble us up in its fiery mouth. How long until it reaches us? Well, that's classified. Finally, coming into number 1 when you thought it couldn't get any worse. It does. It's the Scarlet King. The original SCP, or the original evil. The Scarlet King was originally named as SCP-001 until the SCP Foundation realized that actually he cannot be categorized, as he is malice itself. Let me explain. It seems that the Scarlet King is a creature, to quote Jack Finch, whose sole demonic occupation is to usher in Armageddon and the end of all creation. Sure. The Scarlet King is the most malevolent entity in the universe and was born alongside the Tree of Knowledge, or so they say. The Scarlet King is as old as knowledge itself, and it seems that he's the overlord of darkness itself too. So basically, he's the devil. The actual devil. It's said that the Scarlet King is an elder god who has the power to conquer and destroy entire worlds, let alone civilizations. What's his beef? Well, he's declared war on creation itself, so not great. The SCP Foundation seems to think that any manifestation of evil is at the bidding of the Scarlet King. So a god as old as understanding, who's made it his sole purpose to end creation? I mean, it doesn't sound like a party I want to be at, does it? If you want to know about this SCP, we've got a video all about it on Life's Biggest Questions, basically the home of all kinds of SCP content.
Starting off at number 10 now, we have SCP-049. This is a humanoid creature, but that's where the similarities with humans end. To the untrained eye, 049 looks like a medieval plague doctor dressed in thick robes and a ceramic mask. These aren't just clothes though, they are actually part of its physical body. They grow out from it. Despite its creepy appearance, it's actually quite cooperative with the Foundation and can speak English or medieval French. However, even the most hospitable skips have their limits, and 049 is no different. It hates pestilence. That's all it ever seems to talk about sometimes. The definition of pestilence is still unknown to this day. 049 sometimes identifies people as having pestilence and begins to get visibly irate around them. If that person is not removed from the area, 049 will attack. It kills by one touch. One touch from 049 will kill any living thing that it wants. All biological functions just seem to shut down. 049 seems to be frustrated and remorseful after the killing, especially if it feels the pestilence has somehow survived. It will then perform a crude surgery on the corpse using strange tools from a black doctor's bag it carries with it everywhere. It will then reanimate the corpse, although it won't be the same person as before, retaining only basic motor skills. 049 can then instruct them to do its bidding, even to attack others affected with pestilence. 049 has often referred to these zombie-like servants as being cured of the pestilence. I guess we should all hope that we don't have pestilence, but until we learn what 049 actually means by that, I guess everyone is in danger of being cured. Next up at number 9 now we have SCP-096. This skip is kept in an airtight steel cube at the Foundation. I think that sets the tone quite well. Because of the high security around 096, not much is known about it other than it's very dangerous. It's said to be a humanoid creature measuring approximately 7 feet 8 inches tall. It has very little muscle mass, possibly from malnutrition. It's a horrific looking creature. Its arms are grossly out of proportion with the rest of its body. Its skin is almost translucent without a trace of body hair. That's not even the scariest part though. Get this, if a person sees the face of 096, they will be attacked and killed within 2 minutes. Always. You don't even have to see it in person. You can be looking at a picture of 096. It will still somehow know you've seen its face and it will find you and kill you. That's why they keep it in the steel cube at the Foundation. They just need to make sure there are no pictures nearby either. Next up at number 8 now we have SCP-1471. 1471 is an app. Yeah, it's not actually a physical entity. It's a 9.8 megabyte phone app that appears in phones. Somehow it bypasses all security measures, and once it's installed by the user, it cannot be removed. No icons are shown on the phone, making the user wonder if they even installed it in the first place. 1471 will then begin to send images to the user every few hours. All of them will include the physical version of 1471, a large humanoid figure with a canine-like skull and black hair. Perhaps the creepiest thing about these images though is that 1471 will always appear in settings that the user knows from their own life. If the user does not stop using the app after seeing the images within the first 90 hours of exposure, 1471 will begin appearing in their real life, always in the corner of their eye, sometimes even trying to communicate with them. Next up at number 7 now we have SCP-173. This is perhaps one of the weirdest looking skips on this list. I think the picture speaks for itself. Its origin is unknown, and everything about it seems to be learnt from its confinement by the Foundation. Those who have dealt with 173 know a few different ways to handle it. The most important is to always keep it in direct line of sight. It cannot move if it's in a person's line of sight, which is a good thing because it's dangerous. For some unknown reason, it produces a layer of blood and feces on the floor around it. This means that its cell needs to be cleaned out twice a week. 3 personnel will enter the cell, one of them to just clean, while the other 2 are simply there to stare at 173. If one of them needs to blink, they need to inform the other one first. If both blink at the same time, 173 will attack and kill. Its choice of attack is to snap a human's neck at the base of the skull or by strangulation. I guess we should all practice not blinking then. I just blinked. Moving on to number 6 now, we have SCP-682. The entry for this skip simply starts with SCP-682 must be destroyed as soon as possible. Yeah. It's a serious one. Despite the calls for it to be destroyed as soon as possible, there is actually no known way to destroy this entity. It is beyond the powers of the Foundation. They only know how to contain it, and it takes a lot. 682 should be contained in a 5x5 by 5 meter chamber with 25 centimeters of reinforced acid-resistant steel plate lining all inside surfaces. The chamber should then be filled with hydrochloric acid until 682 is completely incapacitated. It's been described as a reptilian kind of creature with extremely high intelligence, able to communicate with other skips that it's been exposed to. During the limited time that it's been studied, observers think 682 has an immense hatred for all other life forms. That doesn't help the Foundation control or combat it, but knowing its primal motive is a step in the right direction. Moving on to number 5 now, we have SCP-1981. 1981 is an old Betamax tape. On the side of it is written "Ronald Reagan cut up while talking." The film on the tape appears to be a homemade recording of former US President Ronald Reagan delivering his evil empire speech to a group of evangelicals in 1983. Nothing seems out of the ordinary until about 1 minute and 10 seconds in. Then the speech begins to deviate heavily until it becomes unrecognizable as the speech everyone has on record. At 5 minutes in, wounds can be seen slowly appearing on the president's face. Despite the severity of the lacerations, the president continues to give his speech until either his vocal cords are severed or the tape degrades into static around the 22-minute mark. Here's where it gets even weirder though. Rewinding 181 and watching it from the start changes the speech that Ronald Reagan is giving. The topics vary with each new speech, although they often focus on torture, child abuse, and ritual sacrifice. Sometimes a black figure with robes on appears near Reagan, often referred to as SCP-1981. Sometimes Reagan makes references to future events that hadn't actually happened at the time of recording, such as 9/11. For an old tape, it's caused quite the stir at the Foundation over the years, and nobody is really any closer to solving its mysteries. Moving on to number 4 now, we have SCP-106. While some of the skips we've talked about before have been scary because of their immense strength or size, 106 is just creepy. It's said to resemble an elderly human in an advanced stage of decomposition. It's basically a rotting zombie. It also likes to consume humans between the ages of about 10 to 25. Like a traditional zombie, it's not very quick or flexible and can remain motionless for days at a time. Unlike a zombie though, it uses corrosion to break down any material that stands in its way. A captured 106 must be contained in a sealed container, specifically made with lead-lined steel. The specifications for how this cell is supposed to be constructed are possibly the most technical I've seen. There are detailed instructions on materials, layers, and the space between them. There is a reason for this though. Research and observation have shown that when 106 is faced with highly complex or random structures, it can become confused and unable to exit from its containment. Moving on to number 3 now, we have SCP-2006. SCP-2006 deals in fear. That's not my description, that's how it describes itself. According to sources, 2006 has repeatedly stated its goal of causing as much fear in the world as possible. Guidelines state that if it's captured, it must be constantly monitored for changes in form. That's right, it's a little bit of a shapeshifter. Despite this, there is a general description often given. It's said to be an anomalous spherical entity, roughly 50 centimeters in diameter. However, due to its transformative abilities, it can morph into any object of any shape, mass, volume, density, and chemical structure that it desires. Due to this, there is currently no known way to damage 2006. Perhaps more worryingly, the limits to its shapeshifting powers are also not known. It could be anything, anywhere, at any given time. Like I said before, this SCP deals in fear. There's just one hitch though. It's said to be a poor judge of what actually scares humans and the emotions we feel. With the power of almost perfect shapeshifting, these small flaws may be the only chance people have in detecting this strange being. Next up at number 2 now, we have SCP-993. The last one I spoke about was a creature. This is a television program. Let me explain. SCP-993 is a children's TV show called Bobble the Clown. Sounds innocent enough, right? It's an educational cartoon with the primary plot of most episodes involving Bobble the Clown learning a new skill or activity. Okay, so far so good. The problem comes though when the program is being viewed. Anyone watching aged 10 years or older will immediately fall unconscious when the program begins and will remain that way until the end of the episode. Most of the under 10s interviewed after the event reported a stabbing headache immediately before blacking out. And finally, number 1 now, we have SCP-087. 087 is quite simply an unlit platform staircase. When I say unlit, I mean very unlit. This small stairwell has defied everything we know about light. Even using a 75-watt bulb, nothing can be illuminated on this stairwell more than about 1.5 levels down. The darkness just seems to swallow up excess light. It's not just the light that creeps people out here here though, it's the sound. Reports and audio recordings appear to show a distressed vocalization from a young child. The voice comes from 200 meters below where 087 begins. The Foundation has sent exploration teams down there to see just how far the stairwell goes. They've descended in the pitch black darkness and the stairs just never seem to end. The teams descend both beyond the possible structure of the building and its geological surroundings. The child's voice always remains 200 meters below them too. They never get any closer. Also, on each of these expeditions, the teams were met with a strange face with no pupils, nose or mouth. It appears for a moment before disappearing back into the darkness. The Foundation knows nothing more but suspects it is not the source of the child's voice from the depths. Moving on to number 9 now, we have SCP-221. 221 is a pair of gold tweezers from the 16th or 17th century. Researchers removed parts of the tweezer for testing, and when they came back to it later, they found it had somehow restored the gold that they had taken from it. It's theorized that 221 uses minute amounts of gold in the human body to regenerate itself. 221 causes OCD in any person who uses it on their own body. They will slowly remove all their hair from their body with the tweezer, but they won't stop there. Soon they will use 221 to remove fingernails and toenails, then teeth, and then they will use it to remove their own organs. They will start with their eyes and skin and then move on to the liver and pancreas. If they can't use 221 to remove them, they may even use their own hands. If 221 is taken away from the person, they will become violent and manic, using their own hands to finish the job they started. It affects different people in different ways, but if nobody intervenes, 221 will always eventually be the end of anyone who comes into contact with it. Moving on to number 8 now, we have SCP-695. To the untrained eye, 695 resembles a parasitic eel. It has a multi-stage life cycle and uses humans as its primary host. They are about 10 to 15 centimeters in size and they have fully translucent skin and bones. Adults will attempt to enter male human bodies when they are present or around in infested waters. 695 enters the human body via the mouth, nose, anus or urethra. Once inside the body, 695 burrows into the nervous system or reproductive system and begins its gestation period. During this time, the subject will experience twitching, burning, intense thirst, light sensitivity, hallucinations and increased aggression. This will most likely cause them to attack a nearby female in the most heinous ways imaginable and causing 695 to spread to its next victim. Moving on to number 7 now, we have 001. This is said to be a humanoid entity approximately 700 cubits in height. It is currently being contained in an undisclosed location near the intersection of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Because security is so tight, there isn't too much that we know about 001, but this is what we've gathered. It has a number of luminous wing-like appendages that burst out of its shoulders, back, temples, ankles and wrists. The strange thing about the wings is that nobody can agree exactly how many there are. Some say 2, while others have claimed to see 108. 001 carries a weapon, possibly a sword or a knife. Either way, it emits flames at temperatures close to the surface of the sun. Now despite this, the heat does not seem to damage any of the surrounding area. However, any entity that approaches within 1 kilometer of 001 is immediately struck by the weapon and removed from existence. Some think that 001 is an angel of the apocalypse mentioned in the texts of many Abrahamic religions. The founder of the SCP says that he made the organization after an encounter with 001 in which this being told him to prepare. So then he set about cataloging and containing any supernatural beings that pose a threat to humanity, aka the SCP Foundation. Coming at number 6 now, we have SCP-096. This SCP is described as a humanoid creature measuring approximately 2.38 meters in height. It has very little muscle mass, possibly due to malnutrition. Now at first glance, the most notable thing is its arms, which are said to be grossly out of proportion with the rest of its body. Its skin is devoid of pigmentation and covered with almost no body hair. Things get even weirder though. 096 is said to be able to open its jaw 4 times the norm of an average human. Its eyes are featureless and the Foundation isn't even sure if it's blind or not. When left alone, 096 appears to be very docile, spending most of its time up against a wall. That all changes though when anyone sees its face. Now if that happens, it will become emotionally distressed. You don't even have to see it directly. Even seeing a video recording or a photo of its face will cause 096 to cover its own face and begin screaming, crying and babbling incoherently. It will then begin running to the person who saw it and won't stop until it finds them and kills them. So far, it has a 100% success rate. After the killing, 096 will sit down, calm down, and become docile once again. Next up at number 5 now we have SCP-555. 555 is a metal cylinder with rounded ends, 1.25 centimeters and 8 centimeters long, similar to a magnet commonly fed to cattle to prevent disease. It emits a mysterious energy field which seems to attract dead human tissue. This includes hair separated from the body, corpses, shed skin cells, and in some extreme cases, layers of skin. 555 attracts dead human tissue with a greater force if there is more dead human tissue around it. It was originally found in a cemetery in California. The Foundation was alerted to a possible SCP after a coffin due to be buried that day was pulled right out of the pallbearer's grip and landed on the grave of someone who died in 1948. It was found that all the surrounding coffins around that grave had been pulled towards the coffin with 555 inside, and it has been kept by the Foundation for study ever since. Moving on to number 4 now we have SCP-895. 895 is an oak coffin. I wish I could say that was the creepiest part, but it gets a lot worse. It was found in a mortuary and was reported to the Foundation after unusual behaviour was noticed around it. The staff said that they didn't know where 895 came from or how it was transported to the mortuary. When agents attempted to open 895, they found it empty. However, they soon noticed that it caused disruptions in video and photographic surveillance equipment within 50 meters. These are always disturbing hallucinations with varying durations and regularity. These get worse the closer the camera is. Within a range of 5 meters from 895, the footage captured can cause severe psychological trauma and hysteria to most subjects. All of this does not affect observers who are physically near 895, only the ones watching the footage. Next up at the number 3 spot now we have SCP-426. I am SCP-426. If you're wondering why I am saying that I am SCP-426, well, that's one of the weird things about this SCP. It can only be spoken about in the first person. It's impossible for anyone to talk about me in the third person, as you can see right now. The strange thing is that I am just an ordinary toaster, able to toast bread when supplied with electricity. However, if a person is in the continuous presence of me for over 2 months, they begin to identify themselves as a toaster. Unless forcibly restrained, these people will ultimately harm themselves in their attempts to become an ordinary toaster. The SCP Foundation found me in a home where some of the family had died. I was given to them in a box with no card or no markings. The daughter of that family had died from electric discharge while trying to devour an electric socket. The mother was found dead after gorging herself on nearly 10 kilograms of bread before her stomach burst open and she died of internal bleeding. I was confiscated by the Foundation after police noted my unusual properties. Moving on to number 2 now, we have SCP-1959. 1959 is an unmarked Soviet spacesuit that is in continuous orbit around Earth. At first they thought it was an inanimate object, but then it appeared to be moving. The suit resembled a Soviet SK-1 model used in the Vostok program. It's in good condition except for the visor, which is badly damaged and completely misted over, preventing any observation of its interior. The Foundation first detected considerable amounts of gamma radiation emerging from it. 1959 remains motionless for long periods of time, but then randomly it moves erratically. It appears to be in great distress and thrashes everywhere, trying to break its own visor. The suit seems to be indestructible and can ram through any obstacle it encounters. All attempts to communicate with 1959 have failed. The Foundation believe that 1959 is a well-known Soviet astronaut whose mission ended in disaster. Now some dark force keeps him orbiting Earth forever and prevents him from taking his own life. And finally, number 1 now, we have SCP-957. 957 is a humanoid entity currently residing in a house in Kentucky under the Foundation's observation. The creature is about 2 meters in height and weighs 75 kilograms. One of the most startling first impressions is that it has no internal organs. It also appears to not require any food, water, or sleep. By talking to and observing 957, the Foundation has figured out exactly what it does. 957 will always live in a house inhabited by a single human. When that human dies, it will instantly appear in the nearest house with a single human. Once it has its target, 957 will force the human through a portal in their own chest cavity where they will remain for 4 hours before emerging again. After this, the human will be missing their eyes and large chunks of their memory. They will believe that they have been blind for all of their life and that 957 is actually just a close family member or friend. They will show affection for 957 but will never touch it. Once a month they will then go into crowded areas and beg people for for help. Once they get another person back to their house, 957 will reduce them to a pile of organs and then burn the rest of them in the fire. Then their life will continue for another month before they repeat the whole process again.
10. We have SCP-2396. SCP-2396 is part of the Curious Mister series, although the SCP is the only miss of the collection of 20. Also known as Miss Sweetie, 2396 is an 8-foot female humanoid weighing 22 pounds with natural pink hair. On her thigh she has a small tattoo that reads, "From Little Misters by Dr. Wondertainment," which is worth remembering. She needs to constantly be fed sugar, if not she feels great pain. The only thing is though, when she does eat the sugar, she starts becoming unbearable to be around, but just for males. She produces little hard candies known as SCP-2396As, especially when she's stressed. Now these appear in densely populated areas and are harmless if ingested by females, but if they're eaten by males, then the men are slowly turned into life-size hard candy. Sometimes life-size hard unicorn candies. Yay! Nay. These then become totally subservient to women who can order them to do what they want. Now, while this sounds both fun and kinda delicious, turning half of the population into hard candy zombies would be pretty awful, and humanity could no longer reproduce unless there's some kind of creepy, sweet, sticky half-breed plot hole, but honestly, I'm not sure I want to be any part of that, or we should mention it here. Not very PG. Ugh. Galloping into number 9, we have SCP-805. I actually recently did a Life's Biggest Questions video on SCP-805. It is a hollow wooden horse made from twisted wooden branches and roots. It came trotting out of a forest one day and started infecting people that touched it. The SCP is now contained in the Foundation and is allowed in and out of a secured paddock to graze and gallop, but all those who tend to it have to have all of their skin covered for fear of infection. Touching it with bare skin will result in a rash similar to that which only comes from poison oak. Only it will start turning greenish, brownish, and a person will then start slowly turning into a living wooden structure themselves. Only they won't be able to move, they'll be rigid and stuck like a wooden statue forever. The horse seems to be a cute, sweet lover of contact, but if it was to fall into the wrong hands, it could start turning people into wood one by one. And what if there are more poison ponies out there? Also, is it really a nice horse, or is it a scheming trotter? Okay, we've had fun with candy queens and ponies, but shall we get serious? What about a spider lady that will eat you alive limb by limb? Serious enough for you? Coming into number 8, we have SCP-352. Oh, hello old Baba Yaga. I also made a Life's Biggest Questions video on her. She is a horrifying spider witch. SCP-352 is class Keter, which basically means that she'll kill you and she won't care. Before she was captured in a woodland in Russia, she had already murdered an entire village that we know of. She now resides in a locked cell and is serviced only by robots. Presenting as a decrepit old lady, SCP-352 is covered in tiny long hairs that grow at will. If touched, they infect humans with an enzyme that breaks down their logical brains. They are no longer able to perform simple cognitive tasks. Some even display signs of euphoria. It seems that SCP-352 then bites. She uses her hair as a web and then dismembers and eats her prey. Oh, and she can also run really, really fast, which means if she ever got loose, we may have trouble catching her. She may have her work cut out in terms of ending the entire world, but given enough time to grow enough poison hair, you know, maybe. Coming into number 7, we are getting reals, the red spot of Jupiter, SCP-2399. Sounds like I'm in a bingo hall. SCP bingo. Worrying. Did you know that Jupiter is home to a terrifying SCP? According to the Foundation, 2399 is a massive, complex mechanical structure currently located in Jupiter's lower atmosphere. Whatever it is suspected that it is an antimatter weapon that creates space-time disruptions and causes havoc with a planet's atmosphere. It can be observed as a large red spot. Now, scientists have us believe that the Great Red Spot on Jupiter is a storm that has been raging 22 degrees south of the planet's equator for nearly 200 years, but actually it's an SCP. 2399 is thought to be damaged but has released drones to fix itself. It's thought that the SCP crash landed on Jupiter on its way to Earth and its rebuild is almost completed. Does this mean the SCP will continue onto our planet? What is the purpose of its mission? We just don't know. but we do know that it can be used to disrupt matter, and we suspect with our current available technology anyway, that it is indestructible to humans. Uh-oh. Ooh, next up we have one of my favourite SCPs, but rest assured it actually could end the world. Anyway, if it wasn't so dumb. But it is! Coming in at number 6, we have SCP-3740. 3740 is a humanoid male that was picked up drunk outside a bar in Turkey. He'd gotten into a brawl and blew out the front of a building. It seems that the SCP is known as Asher God of the windswept plains and soaring skies, and does indeed have incredible cosmic power. For example, he can control birds, control air pressure, change temperatures. He can also create 500 km/h winds as well as create cyclones. Asher loves being worshipped and doesn't pose a threat to those he also believes are gods. He's very gullible. He's contained in a cell of the Foundation decked out as a luxury floor of a castle. He's quelled by regular feasts and drinking and often tries to woo those who dine with him. Foundation members must roleplay as fellow gods, which he believes. He also believes that he is in an Anglian chateau that he conquered himself. Now if he realizes that actually he is in containment and not in the company of fellow gods, he could absolutely lose it and use his power to break free and cause havoc on Earth. I still kinda love him anyway. Nikola Tesla, mate, what you got for us at number 5? Oh, it's SCP-2700. Our mate Nikola Tesla was for reals inventing a way to give the world free energy in the late 1800s. It seems that actually things could have been a little bit more sinister. According to the SCP Foundation website, SCP-2700 is a complex mechanical device believed to be a sophisticated directed energy weapon developed by Serbian physicist and inventor Nikola Tesla. It is possibly a particle accelerator. Now according to Foundation lore, in Tesla's journal he says that he was approached by a man who commissioned the machine in order to quote-unquote unlock science's final secret. Tesla claimed to have sourced material for the machine from multiverses and then created the weapon, the Teleforce. It was then brought back to our universe, and his notes read, "I took the Teleforce back here. I took the death of existence back to my universe where it belonged. I have betrayed all life forms in this cosmos. I have betrayed our entire future." The death of existence. You what, mate? Doesn't sound great. Whatever SCP-27000 is, the Foundation says that it has been auto-programmed to activate in the year 2234, which actually the Foundation are really worried about. They think it will cause a YK-class event. Coming into number 4, we have SCP-2317. The seventh bride will break the tides, the moon no more will shine. There comes a day not far away, she'll birth the death of time. This is a prophecy about SCP-2317, and it doesn't sound great, does it? Yep, the prophecy does not sound great. So SCP-231-1-7 were a group of pregnant women, although 1 to 6 are now dead. The 7 women were recovered from a cult, and it is believed that they were impregnated with the children of the Scarlet King, aka the original evil. When the Foundation attempted to capture the women, some of the SCP died, so 231, 1 and 5 died giving birth to their offspring, and it seems that many people were killed in the process. Number 3 killed herself in the facility, and 2 and 4 died as a result of a procedure conducted upon them in captivity. 6 died trying to escape. Now 7 remains contained. It seems that the women inspire sympathy from those around them, and they can manipulate people into helping them try to break out. A horrifying procedure known only as 110 Montauk is carried out once every 24 hours by criminals locked up in the Foundation. This procedure has led to very heightened levels of staff distress. Whatever the SCP is carrying in her womb, it seems like it could be a world ender. Coming into number 3, we have SCP-3003. Let's cut to the chase here. SCP-3003 is an Earth-sized planet orbiting a star 208 light years away from Earth. The planet is infected with beetles that act as parasites on humans, allowing the beetles to control the population. The planet also contains a device that, if activated, could open a portal between SCP-3003 and Earth. So should that open up, hello people controlling parasites coming at us, trying to infect us. I don't like beetles anyway. Coming into number 2, we have SCP-2317. SCP-2317 is an old 19th century wooden door originally constructed as a basement door from a Massachusetts brownstone. These days though, it serves as a door to another reality. Cool. The only thing is though, in the other reality there is a 200-kilometer tall humanoid that is known as the Planet Eater, or SCP-2317-JK, who wants to, eat the planet, destroy the world. The good news is the Planet Eater has been contained by 7 strong ancient bones, but the bad news is that 6 of them are broken, leaving just 1 between us and unleashing the beast that wants to destroy the planet by gobbling it up into his big beastly belly. Some speculate that 2317 is an incantation of the Scarlet King himself. Okay, we are here, we're at the number 1 spot. What evil is awaiting us? Coming into number 1, we have Mr. Wondertainment. What we do know is that the elusive Mr. W has created 20 SCPs, including Miss Sweetie, who was at number 10. Indeed, the man, if he is a man or even a human, created the 20 collectible Little Misters. I'll give you a quick run through of all of them. Mr. Chameleon. He is a sentient entity made of protons who can match its background. Mr. Headless is a headless man who can still perform tasks that usually require a head. Mr. Forgetful is a person with a peanut allergy. He's a humanoid with amnesia. Mr. Shapey is a transforming morphing creature. Mr. Soap is a humanoid that exudes a soapy liquid and can float humans in bubbles, which sounds kind of fun. Mr. Hungry is a humanoid who needs to eat 2,000 calories every 2 hours, if not he'll lose it and start consuming matter around him. Mr. Brass, I'd watch out for him. He's an automaton, a humanoid made of brass who was mistaken as a god by a cult before it ended up in containment. Then there's Mr. Hot, who has a weird ability to predict if a person has a child and also know what product that child desires the most. Really weird. Miss Sweetie, she's the only female, we talked about her, turning men into candy and then controlling them, also creepy. Mr. Life and Death is an SCP that goes through the entire cycle of life and death every 75 minutes, which sounds exhausting. Mr. Fish is a humanoid just like you and I, except he has a head of a fish, which is super creepy. Mr. Moon is a man whose face appears and disappears along with the lunar cycle. Mr. Laugh is a clown that makes you laugh so hard that you can't breathe and you die. The discontinued and mysterious Mr. Red, I don't know much about him at all to be honest. Then there's Mr. Money, who trades himself for human possessions. There's Mr. Lost, he's a free SCP who simply wanders the earth. There's Mr. Mad, who actually does seem criminally insane. Mr. Scary, who, get this, is a partially submerged steel structure with a large saltwater reservoir, who corrodes people on sight. Mr. Stripe has the baffling ability to turn people into stripes. And finally, there is Mr. Lie, but we aren't supposed to know about him. Whew. So, what on earth could someone want with compiling this collection of life-size, living, breathing odds and sods? They all have a slight underlying theme of consumerism, and also how on earth can someone create an SCP? Let me know. Mr. Tesla did it with the help of a mysterious entity. Some speculate that Dr. Wondertainment is that entity, or perhaps could be an entity from the Church of the Broken God. Others speculate that Mr. Wondertainment is the creator of all SCPs out there of all time, or maybe is an incantation of the Scarlet King, and God, I've gone cross-eyed. This is simply too much to think about.
Starting off at number 10 now, we have SCP-2316. 2316 is a manifestation. It's a manifestation that appears in an undisclosed lake somewhere in the world. It's a manifestation of a group of human corpses that float on the surface of the water there. Subjects who have witnessed this report that the bodies are of human beings that they recognize, typically from their childhood. Subjects have often tried to enter the lake to touch the instances of 2316. They find though that touching one of the bodies will cause more of them to appear around them in the water. This will draw them further into the lake. Individuals who enter the lake in this way are lost forever, and to date none have been recovered. Next up at number 9 now, we have SCP-939. If you just see a picture of 939, it looks like an amphibian. A scary amphibian, but an amphibian nonetheless. This isn't any normal amphibian though. I'll stop saying amphibian now, I think. 939 is also known as with many voices. These predators are bright red, each one as big as a large adult and weighing over 400 pounds. They appear to have almost no vital organs. They lack a nervous system, heart or digestive tract, and their long heads have no eyes. The only noticeable facial feature is their long red teeth. These creatures have no brain, but that hasn't stopped them from developing an intelligent hunting tactic. If you remember earlier, I said it's known as with many voices. Well, that's because when 939 kills a person, it learns their voice forever. 939 will then use their voice to lure in the next victim. 939 will call out for help, and then when the person gets near, it will kill them with a swift bite. If by some miracle the victim manages to survive being eaten whole and can escape, 939 has one last trick up its sleeve. It exhales an amnesia-inducing chemical which leaves the victim forgetting what just happened to them. This lets 939 try its voice trick all over again, and this time it won't miss that bite. Moving on to number 8 now, we have SCP-3063. 3063 is a telepathic Class 5 reality-bending fly. You heard me. That's literally what it is. On the surface, it resembles an adult male housefly. It is currently believed that only one manifestation of 3063 can exist at any given time, but that is yet to be confirmed by the Foundation. Manifestations are considered destroyed when they have sustained damage that would be sufficient to kill a normal fly, at which point it will manifest somewhere else on Earth. 3063 will promise an individual anything they desire in exchange for an unspecified price. These offers will include large sums of money, the love of other individuals, political power, and reality-bending abilities. It's able to read the minds of the individual to tailor its offer to them, but it won't discuss anything other than the agreement. Now, of course, there's a catch. After 6.5 years, fertilized eggs will appear and hatch in the person's lungs, throat, stomach, intestines, sinuses, ear canals, and even their rectum. The newly emerged flies will then consume their host whole and breed with each other until the host dies, producing over 50 million flies. So guys, if a mind-reading fly offers you a large sum of money or power, just walk away. That's my advice. Next up, number 7 now, we have SCP-5131. To talk about this one, I have to first talk about SCP-513. 513 is a rusty cowbell. It's covered in rust which the Foundation has been unable to remove. Any noise produced by 513 immediately induces a strong anxiety in all sentient beings who hear it, regardless of their current mental state. They report feelings of being watched and having elevated heart rates. Then, roughly an hour later from this time, subjects report seeing 5131 when opening doors, walking past mirrors, turning their heads, or performing any action that results in a sudden change in visual perception. Descriptions of its appearance are largely unreliable. Test subjects are unable to provide complete accounts of sightings due to their exhaustion and degraded mental health. Upon being sighted, 5131 reportedly turns away and runs out of view before disappearing without a trace. Subjects are then stalked, assaulted in their sleep, until being hounded to their untimely death, usually by suicide. Moving on to number 6 now, we have SCP-1983. Now from the outside, 1983 resembles a chemical plant. It's been nicknamed the farmhouse, and in my opinion, it's one of the creepiest buildings we've talked about in an SCP video. Here's the thing, if you enter the farmhouse without leaving the front door open, you can't leave. It's that simple. The door that would have led back outside now just leads to different rooms. You're now trapped in a maze, and you're not alone there, but that's really not a good thing. This alternate reality is inhabited by strange creatures said to be made of shadows. They can only manifest themselves when strong light is cast, so you're advised to go against your own instincts and try and stay in the dark around them. In one of the rooms you will find a giant pile of human hearts. Yeah, this one ain't pretty. If the creatures do get hold of you, they will reach right through you, into you, and pull out your heart as if it was an apple on a tree. Then your shadow will crawl out of the heart, only to become one of the shadow creatures. Most of what the Foundation knows about 1983 comes from a journal written by an SCP agent who got stuck in the room and slowly lost his hope and sanity. The Foundation's website contains some excerpts, and it doesn't make for very light reading. Next up at number 5 now, we have SCP-012. 012 is a piece of sheet music written in blood. It was discovered by archaeologist K.M. Sandoval during a dig in an Italian tomb that had been destroyed in a storm. 012 was titled On Mount Golgotha. It appeared to be incomplete. The red and black ink was first thought to be berry or perhaps natural dye, but was later found to be human blood. Even more horrifically, it was the blood of a number of different people. 2 of the discovery team descended into madness upon finding 012. They attempted to use their own blood to finish the composition. This resulted in subsequent symptoms of psychosis and massive trauma. Those subjects who managed to finish a section of the piece of music immediately committed suicide. Many of their last words involved saying the piece was impossible to complete. In the years since its discovery, any attempts to perform the music have resulted in a horrific mess, with each instrument having no harmony whatsoever between between each other, the music has only brought madness and death. The Foundation keeps it in a darkened room at all time, locked away where it can't hurt anyone. Moving on to number 4 now, we have SCP-3998. I'm not really sure how to start this one, if I'm honest. Basically, 3998 is a dead human body. The Foundation knows that 3998 died sometime in the late 17th century. It has no legs and is covered in 4th degree burns. Sometime after its death, its remains were collected and fashioned into a scarecrow, held together by wicker, nails and wire. Along with these severe burns, 3998 appears to have suffered blunt force trauma across its body. It constantly exudes a flammable liquid from its bones made of ethanol and human fat. Every night from 11 PM to 4 AM, 3998 ignites and is engulfed into flames. It's never harmed by the fire, but when not contained properly, the nearest person will spontaneously ignite. The people 3998 ignites are always those who have killed or physically abused a romantic partner. As its target is burning, large quantities of boiling ethanol appears in their stomach. They will vomit this up, which will ignite and further burn parts of their body. Meanwhile, their stomach violently ruptures, often splitting the victim literally in half as a result. This causes massive internal and external damage very quickly. Survivors are almost non-existent. Moving on to number 3 now, we have SCP-2539. Some roads you aren't supposed to go down. 2539 is a 3.1 kilometer stretch of road near Roehampton, New South Wales. People who drive down it disappear after about 500 meters and will later appear at the other end of the road 7 or 8 hours later. They will show signs of severe dehydration even when given supplies beforehand to prevent this. It gets stranger though. Every single person has reported that during that drive they stop for a highway patrol officer named Miriam Wells. Descriptions of this apparition match that of the real Miriam Wells, a patrol officer who disappeared in late 2009 on a routine patrol. She is usually described as wearing civilian clothes and attempting to ask for directions. In some cases, people report being able to convince the woman to join them in their vehicle. However, when they emerge from 2539 hours later, they find that in place of the woman is instead a heavily scorched and decomposed piece of human flesh in the storage compartment of the vehicle. The source of this is unknown, and the Foundation is continuing its investigation. Next up at number 2 now, we have SCP-1782. Frankly, I can't believe that I didn't include this one in a previous video. Maybe I saw it and just thought that it was too disturbing, but here it is anyway. 1782 is a room measuring 42 or 45 square meters in an abandoned apartment complex located in Kiev, Ukraine. The creepy thing about the room is that every 3 days at exactly 3:12 AM, the room changes instantaneously. Perhaps the only thing the different versions of the room have in common is just how strange they are. The SCP monitored these changing rooms for a number of days. The first time the report was, "Room materializes empty. The sound of metal scraping against metal can be heard. A disembodied female voice can be heard repeating the phrase, 'shakes me, makes me lighter,' until 3:12 AM. 3 days later, the room changed again and the report read, "Room materializes empty. Sound does not travel through the interior, although upon further inspection, a small area on the left wall of the floor pan emits a faint metallic grating noise." 3 days after that, the report read, "An elderly human feeding itself to a group of kakapo. Did not express pain, appears ambivalent." The Foundation has set up a perimeter around 1782 to monitor it at all times. So far, only unmanned drones were allowed inside until they figure out whether this anomaly is a danger to people at large. And finally, number 1 now, we have SCP-082. 082 is genetically human, however through some unknown process it has grown to giant proportions. It is 8 feet tall and weighs over 700 pounds. It has disproportionate features, large round eyes and jaw, a bulbous nose and sunken eyes. Scans have shown countless bullets and several knife and saw blades lodged into 082's flesh. 082 refers to itself as Fernand and speaks fluent French and heavily accented English. It seems civil at first, but SCP-0823 has been known to attack people. It will interrupt conversations with a victim by just devouring their head. Its jaw is strong enough to crack bone, and it seems to enjoy biting down on people's skulls. Attacks are seemingly random, with no motivation whatsoever. Whether 082 has recently eaten seems to have no effect on its cannibalistic hunger.
Coming into number 10, we have SCP-2059, the Flesh Wall. This is basically my worst nightmare. It seems like it started its life underwater, but it can live and absorb things anywhere. The SCP SCP is an autonomous and sentient mass of flesh, organs, and bones, but it is notably lacking in keratinous material like hair and nail. The so-called wall of flesh absorbs anything it touches, and right now it's comprised of a blue whale, a giant squid, 2 dolphins, 300 rodents, 30 living humans, 1 dead human in an advanced state of decomposition, and several household pets and livestock. Great, it's like a sick Noah's Ark. The flesh wall is contained, but if it wasn't, it would absorb everything and anything that it touched, meaning that the whole planet, animals and humans alike, could in theory become part of the sentient flesh. Blech. Coming into number 9, we have 008. SCP-008 is an extreme biological hazard that seems like it is primed and prepped to be used in biological warfare. The SCP is locked in the Foundation and is described as a complex prion. It is 100% infectious and is 100% lethal if untreated. It's transmitted through human contact and exposure to mucous membranes. It isn't airborne though. Symptoms are flu-like and involve a high fever, later followed by quick onset severe dementia. 12 hours after the dementia presents, those contaminated will fall into a coma and appear to develop gangrene. Harrowingly, patients don't die. Yet, they become twisted oozing beings with mental retardations. They'll bite and grab and claw at other humans. Eventually though, the illness will devour them and they will die. While SCP-008 is contained in the Foundation, it is believed that it could be replicated, and it is also possessed by the Russian government. The only good news is that there is a cure, SCP-500. It's a diminishing supply of red pills that seem to cure anything. But there are only 47 left, so if the whole world was infected by 008, we'd literally all be screwed anyway. Hooray! Coming into number 8, we have SCP-938. 938 is an electrical entity of Keter class. It is stored in the Foundation in a non-electrical room insulated with PVC. Now it also seems that this storage facility holding the SCP seeps a kind of blood, which doesn't sound great, does it? The SCP is predatory, and when it gets loose, it acts like an electrical storm travelling through power grids and into homes. Once a home is infected with the SCP, it will use household electrical appliances to electrocute people. Not only that, even if people think they're smart by avoiding touching electronics, simply being near the SCP has been reported to send people mad with paranoia. If this SCP got out, it could cause apocalyptic storms and infect all of our buildings and cars. And also, just out of curiosity, what is the longest that you've gone without touching anything electrical? Exactly. Yes, your phone counts. Bah! It would electrocute you. Dead. Dead! Coming into number 7, we have SCP-839, the candy worms. Do not eat these jelly worms. Don't do it. I don't really eat candy anyway, but like, I wouldn't if this was real. SCP-839 are flavoured sugared worms that when ingested burrow into a person's body and replace one of their vital organs. For example, the blue colour worm, SCP-8392, is blue raspberry flavour, not a real flavour. It burrows to replace a kidney, eventually resulting in blue urine and kidney failure. SCP-8397 is orange flavour and burrows into the liver, which then works to turn a person's blood to acid. The 4 variant is pink and replaces a living person's brain, and sadly the data has been expunged from then on. So how could this end the world? Well, it seems that the jelly worms can breed. They actually can't harm you unless you eat them, but I guess there could be a scenario in which people are force-fed sweet fruity worms and we all die of acid blood, but maybe that is a stretch. Still though, the sweets, they'll get you. Next up we have SCP-037. SCP-037 is a small-scale dwarf star found in the 1900s in Beaufort Sea near the North Pole. The star is just 5 centimeters in diameter but is extremely hot and causes a great deal of electromagnetic interference. It seems that the SCP is undergoing transformation into a red giant, which is confusing because usually the red giant stage happens before the dwarf star stage. But this is an SCP and honestly, who knows what the actual frog is happening. It seems that this SCP needs to be kept deep underground so that its blistering heat doesn't affect its surroundings. Plans are underway to get SCP-037 off our planet before it becomes a red giant and eventual stellar nova. This seems likely to, you know, melt stuff in a serious way. If we can't get her gone, well, it's been nice knowing you. Next up we have SCP-048, and I love some facts for you in a mid-list spot. There is no SCP-048. Actually, it is said that this designation is cursed. For now, the number has been retired due to a spate of unfortunate incidents with previous SCPs given this number. They've either died or been lost, and well, nobody wants an SCP to be lost and on the loose. Additionally, it seems that the Foundation employees assigned to 048 have a 50% higher death rate than those assigned to other SCPs. On one occasion, it seems that an SCP-048 was lost shortly before its caseworker had his arm suspiciously amputated. Nobody wants a cursed SCP. Absolutely nobody. Okay, so where do we go from SCP-048? The next logical place. Up next, we have SCP-049, the Plague Doctor. And oh no, this guy is not good. Not good at all. SCP-049 is contained, but like, if he or it got out, it would be bad news bears. It seems that SCP-049 looks like a plague doctor, you know, the creepy medieval beak-wearing cloaked figure that come to treat people infected with plague. These days, like, plague isn't really an issue, especially not in the developed world, so, you know, not seeing many plague doctors around in my life. If you do see one, it's probably this menacing SCP. This SCP is capable of communicating, but likes to do so in medieval French or English, so good luck. 049 thinks that humans are infected with pestilence and wants to quote-unquote cure them. So how does he do it? Well, SCP-049 is capable of stopping all of your biological functions by simply touching you. Basically, he touches you and you die, which pretty much sucks. After those infected with the so-called pestilence are killed, 049 then proceeds to conduct autopsies on the victim, bringing them back to life as SCP-0492s, basically human zombies. 049 refers to these brain-dead subjects as being cured, but I don't know about that. Next up we have SCP-1012, the Secret Chord. So SCP-1012 is a secret chord consisting of 5 notes. These 5 tones are named as frequency A, B, C, D, and E. Now it is said that frequency A is slightly higher than G sharp, whereas B through D are not audible to human ranges. E is within human hearing range, but very seldom is used in the chromatic scale. It's been described as sounding like a whale song. If all 5 notes are played together in a chord, then all subatomic particles within range will disintegrate, and then everything touching them will disintegrate too, causing a chain reaction of the breaking down of everything. It has been suggested that this SCP be used to protect against extraterrestrial threats, but this has been rejected due to the potentially hazard side effects of testing. Great. The only thing we can do to protect ourselves should SCP-1012 be unleashed is wear noise-cancelling headphones. Coming into number 2, we have SCP-001, the Reality Failure. It seems that there are a lot of SCPs labelled 001, but absolutely all of them end in catastrophe. This particular version is known as the Sky or Reality Failure. It is characterised by a change in colour of the sky, then by a series of sub-anomalies, including a levitating spherical static. Anything that passes through this static is replaced with argon gas, making it look like it's disappeared. Faintly observable through the gas is a humanoid with long limbs with prominent facial features. Now this is referred to as SCP-0012. The Foundation notes read, in the event of SCP-001 occurring, all personnel including D-Class are to be honourably discharged and may do what they wish with their remaining time on Earth. All sapient and non-aggressive SCPs are to be released. Any further SCPs which can be decommissioned are to be. During this event, the global populace will become aware of the fate of the Earth and its inevitability. They will also experience heavily decreased levels of violence. I don't know about that. Decreased? If the world was ending, would people not go crazy, especially with all the SCPs on the loose? However though, there is a small chance that if caught quickly, the world ending could be quelled. It seems that by entertaining 0012 by reading it books can actually restore the whole thing to pre-incident point. Mind-boggling. Alright, I warned you, this is gross, I hate number 1, we have SCP-597, the Mother. Do you want to see a little picture of this one before we talk about it? This was posted on Reddit by Suckdolacus, and it shows the Mother, aka SCP-597. Now the Mother presents as a blob of booby flesh. It's a mass replete with teats. It's pretty gross. The SCP is kept locked away and staff guarding it can only do so for 5 hours until they need to be replaced with other personnel never before exposed to it. Male staff are not allowed near the Mother, but females are also likely to succumb to her thrall. All personnel must undergo mental clearance after they have been exposed to 597. It seems anyone around the SCP falls in love with it in a weirdly obsessive way. They want to suckle the TT mass and they'll do so if they get the chance. Gross, 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 gross. Ugh, TT Mass. When they have drunk milk from the mother, they will go mad and they will not leave her side. Now those forced to leave will become insane and try and suckle anything and everything they can get their hands on, which is again gross. Some who do manage to cling on to the mother die of suffocation, others just literally stay there forever. Blech. The SCP possesses a mental pull on all living things, drawing them in and reducing them to babies, but like perverse, infatuated, and occasionally kind of rapey babies. If this SCP got out, then we would all be drawn to it eventually, and the aim would be to drink its milk until we die, and what with a population of 7.5 billion flocking to the mother, dying seems like a likelihood, a really, 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 really gross one.
At number 10 we have SCP-058. Let's start off this list with one of the creepy SCPs that I have ever seen. This is a massive cow heart with legs and a bunch of tentacles flowing out of it. This thing looks like it was pulled right out of one of the Resident Evil games, and frankly one of the scariest things in Resident Evil is Nemesis, and I think this thing would rip it apart. This SCP can move extremely fast. It will use its tentacles to propel itself and fling its body all around the world. In just 2 seconds, it can go from standing still to moving at speeds of 90 kilometers an hour. Imagine this thing flying at you at high speed, zooming towards your face. Oh, and I forgot to mention that the tentacles are barbed, so this dude is even more deadly than you already thought. Now, why is it on the list of SCPs that can end existence? It is just one thing, and outside of physical damage, doesn't really have a lot of powers. Well, it's because this creature is extremely destructive. As soon as it gets on the loose, it will start to destroy everything in its path, human or otherwise. It is extremely resistant to any sort of damage that will happen to its body, and it can regenerate. When it was first discovered, it had ravaged a town and destroyed 70% of the structures there. So if this guy ever got on the loose, it wouldn't end well for anybody. It could literally just keep destroying until it killed everything on the planet. At number 9 we have SCP-2845, the deer. This is a deer with a human face, and right there, that's enough to give you the heebie-jeebies. That's something that you think you would only see in your nightmares and would stay in your brain until you went to the grave. But this SCP is extremely powerful and is of unknown origin. It definitely came from space. That much we know. This SCP was on a faulty spaceship and ended up crashing on planet Earth. Obviously, it stuck out like a sore thumb because everyone hunting was like, hey, why does that deer have human lips? But what makes this SCP so powerful is its ability to warp time and space around it to an unknown degree. Now, this could be just something that it can do on our planet, like a Superman situation. It could also be that this creature is powerful throughout dimensions. Now, the only reason I bring up the source of its power is because the SCP Foundation was able to capture it. Now, maybe they captured the deer itself, or maybe they just captured a copy of the deer that the deer created and now is still on the loose, because this thing can warp reality, so who knows where it actually is. At number 8, we have SCP-1548. Imagine if an SCP was an entire sun, like the one that we have, but just even bigger. Now imagine that it had the ability to think, and for whatever reason, it hated us. Well, that's pretty spooky, but it's a sun, it's just floating around in space, just like we are, so there's nothing that it can do about it. And that evil sun monster out in space is just gonna have to deal with its emotions. Not like the angry sun from the NES Marios. I hate that guy so much. Well, I have bad news for you guys, because this SCP is all that, plus it has the ability to move through space faster than you could possibly imagine. It's headed right for us to consume us. Now, how do we know this? Because it talks to us through radio waves. It tells us that it wants us all dead and will continue to devour all the life in the universe. What a cool guy. At number 7, we have SCP-399. There is very limited information on this SCP. It literally just showed up one day. There was a team that was ordered to work on the site facility known as Facility 118, and then out of nowhere one day there was just a new SCP in the containment cell, and everyone who worked at the facility had no memory of how it got there. The only clue was that there was the dead body of one of the scientists that worked at the facility. His body was left in the cell, and it seemed like it had been extremely tortured. Through a thorough investigation, it was discovered that SCP-399 was an interdimensional being that came into consciousness and then took this scientist into another dimension. He then tortured him continuously for an unknown period of time until the scientist was able to kill him or escape in some way and then return back to Earth. Now his dead body is kept in the containment cell, and it's unknown if this SCP is dead or is waiting for another opportunity to return and torture someone else. At number 6, we have SCP-3812. This SCP is a little hard to explain. It's not living, it's not dead, it's partly from our world, but also not at all from our world. It used to be a man named Sam Howell. Prior to his death, it seemed that there was no sort of unordinary thing happening with this man, and he had no supernatural abilities of any sort. But after he died, his spirit was seen floating out of his grave, and now his consciousness exists in both our reality and beyond it, seeing through time and space and all possible outcomes of different narratives of reality. SCP-3812 is able to change reality as it sees fit, and will often do so to try and prevent the SCP Foundation from discovering it. It can be communicated with, but will often become confused, not knowing what is real and what is not. To SCP-3812, everything might seem like a dream, with strange things constantly overlapping with each other. But the difference is, this SCP can control the dream. At number 5, we have SCP-2408, otherwise known as Yaldabaoth. This is one of the gods that birthed the dawn of time. You don't really get more badass than that. Now it's said that this insanely powerful god created existence when he was fighting with another god. That's how you know you are serious. That's like when Muhammad Ali fought George Foreman in Africa. Well, maybe a little bit bigger, but not too much bigger. This SCP can go through all known dimensions, and probably a bunch of dimensions we don't even know exist. If it could start time, then it could definitely end it. This is how strong this guy is. He was able to send some of his brain cells out, and they were powerful enough to almost end all life on Earth. Just his brain cells are that strong. He's currently locked away between dimensions, and hopefully we never see him again. At number 4, we have SCP-239. This SCP is known as the Child Witch. She has a power that a lot of kids would want to have. She can make anything she wishes come true. However, she is only a 6-year-old girl. That is a lot of power for a little kid. I mean, that's a lot of power for anyone, but for a 6-year-old. If that was a real life thing, we would probably all look like talking ponies and the sky would be a permanent rainbow. It's unknown how far this SCP's powers can stretch. So far, she has not found a wish she cannot make. These wishes will even affect dimensions or realities that are beyond our own. It would seem that she has the power to affect all known realities. There is also the chance that she is indestructible. She was first found in a crater in a hospital that she was born in. The hospital exploded. It's unknown the cause of the explosion, but she was the only thing left alive afterwards. Number 3 is SCP-001, the Gate Guardian, a god guarding a gate filled with other gods. This guy means business. Gods don't just hire anyone to protect them for all of time. They get the most badass, powerful thing in the universe. This SCP sits in front of a massive gate. It has 4 large wings that are flowing out of its back, and it is holding a massive sword. Everything to do with this SCP seems like it was constructed out of pure energy. Anyone who gets in with a 1 kilometer radius is either destroyed or mind controlled and told to leave. If someone attempts to attack this SCP, they are vaporized instantly, almost as if they never existed. It seemed that some people believe that when this SCP kills you, it knocks you out of all realities, killing your soul and everything else to do with you. It would seem that behind the gate that this SCP is guarding are other beings that look just like it. And number 2 is the Scarlet King. Now, I just say the Scarlet King for this one because although it is in the SCP logs, it doesn't have an SCP number, but the SCP Foundation knows that it exists. There was an occasion with SCP-710 where the SCP Foundation found a cult worshipping him and that were possibly giving him power or vice versa. This SCP is a terror to all other lower gods. It's said to be maybe the most evil thing in all of existence. It could be the devil or evil incarnate itself, possibly the source of everything evil that we have ever encountered. Well, all we have to do is ask him politely to stop, and then that would solve all our problems, right? Well, not really. All the other elder gods are terrified of this creature. It's said that this thing has caused more death than any other thing that has ever existed. He will tear down universes for just the fun of it and warp reality to his will. This dude is Thanos on steroids mixed with Superman times 1000. And for the number 1 spot, we have SCP-343. This SCP has just been straight up called God. It's an object class safe because it doesn't attack anything, it doesn't intervene with anything, it only watches. There has been some evidence that this SCP shows it interacts with SCP-239 to teach her how to use her powers, because she will one day be an all-knowing god like him that will have equal or greater power. But other than that, this dude just chills out and watches everything go down. He's a very chill god. Probably has so many episodes of interdimensional Netflix to sit down and watch. I like this guy, he's very chill.